Hello, welcome to Unboxed God, where we detox from religion and discover the God who refuses to fit inside the boxes we were given. I'm Tolu Sarah Johnson, and here we explore who God really is, beyond fear, beyond formulas, beyond everything we were taught to perform. If you're hungry for a real relationship with Him, you are in the right place. Let's dive in. So, this is going to be the 34th commandment overall and the 6th commandment in the theme of following. And it is, don't use vain repetition when you pray. Yes. Matthew 6 verse 7 to 8. So let's quickly read that before we dive into the commandment, because that will give us a good understanding of what we are looking at. So it says, and when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask. That's profound. I don't think people understand the fact that God actually knows what you need. So this commandment is not Jesus mocking people who pray sincerely. It is Jesus rescuing prayer from mindless momentum. The kind that sounds spiritual, feels familiar, and yet no longer carries the heart. It's empty. Because it is possible to pray and not actually be present. I've been there several times. When I used to live a religious way, I'll pray, but my mind is not there. But I've got to do it because I think if I don't do it, I'm sinning. Look at how bad I was. And maybe you are the same as well. It's possible to say holy words while the soul is absent. And Jesus, in his kindness, interrupts that drift, not to shame you, but to wake you. What vain repetition really is vain repetition is not simply repeating a request. Jesus himself taught persistence, the widow who kept coming to the judge. So repetition is not the enemy. Emptiness is. Vain repetition is when words are repeated so often that they become automatic instead of intimate, routine instead of relational, memorized instead of meaningful, performed instead of offered, religious instead of alive. So it's prayer that continues even after the heart has stopped participating. And Jesus says plainly, your Father already knows what you need. So prayer is not about informing God. It's about communing with God. That is how prayer should be. But religion has trained us into many words. Many of us were trained to believe if it's longer, it is stronger. If it is repeated, it is more urgent. If it's detailed, it's more convincing. If it's constant, God will move quicker. So people pray like they are trying to unlock God's attention through volume, length, and spiritual effort. But Jesus is saying, you don't have to break down heaven's door. You already have a Father. And a Father is not persuaded by performance. He's moved by love. I want you to look at this analogy. The recorded voice message. Imagine someone you love. Every time they speak to you, they press play on a recording. Same tone, same words, same rhythm, same script. At first, it sounds comforting, familiar, and safe. But after a while, something becomes obvious. You're hearing a sound, but you're not receiving a person. Because what makes love meaningful isn't repetition, it's presence. A recorded message can't laugh with you. It can't pause and listen. It can't respond to what you're feeling today. It can't meet you where you are right now. And that's what vain repetition does to prayer. It turns a living relationship into a loop. And Jesus is saying, I didn't call you into a loop. I called you into a conversation. Then you might wonder, why do people do it anyway? Most people don't repeat prayers because they are lazy. They repeat them because they were trained to do so. They were told directly or indirectly. This is how good Christians pray. This is what holy people do. This is what God expects. So prayer is no longer an avenue for you to have a deep conversation with God. It has become an empty routine. So they keep doing it, rarely stopping to ask, did Jesus actually teach me to pray like this? And Jesus responds with grace. He knows when someone is trapped inside condition. He knows when a heart is sincere but bound by habit. He isn't harsh. He's simply inviting you out of bondage into freedom. And what Jesus is inviting instead, Jesus is not demanding poetry prayer. He's inviting real prayer, fresh prayer, creative prayer, prayer that sounds like a person speaking to someone they love. Sometimes that will be quiet and simple. Father, undo this. Sometimes it will be detailed because your heart needs to pour out. But the difference is this: your words are coming from the present moment, not from religious autopilot. And Jesus keeps pointing us to something deeper, not just one way speaking, but two-way communion. A relationship that listens, a prayer life that becomes a conversation. Because the goal is not to complete a prayer, the goal is to connect. Yes, that's the goal. It is to connect with God. And what this commandment is teaching about God is, there is the tender part. Your Father knows what you need before you ask. Meaning you are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not convincing a distant God to care. You are not negotiating your way into love. You are speaking to a Father who already sees. Even when you don't have the right words, even when you only have one sentence, even when all you can offer is help me, that still reaches Him. Not because you prayed properly, but because you belong to Him. So if you want to obey this commandment, here's a simple practice. Before you pray, pause and ask, am I present? Then pray one sentence that is true right now. Not what you always say, not what you were trained to recite, not what sounds spiritual, just what is real. And if you find yourself repeating the same phrases every day, don't condemn yourself. Just wake up inside them. Turn the script back into a conversation. Add one honest line. Father, I don't know. Add, Father, I don't want this to be routine. Make this living again. Because that is the heart of this commandment. Jesus isn't removing prayers from you. He's removing emptiness from prayer. So you can meet a real Father with a real heart in a real relationship. I hope you've been blessed by this commandment. God bless you, and I shall see you in the next one.